Good afternoon. I'm Brandy Stitt, the program director for the Women's Business Center in Kansas City, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. This is our session on Facebook 201 for Business. This is the second session of a four-part series on social media that is being presented to us by Aviva and Christina, who I'll introduce in just a moment. We are recording this session and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. It generally takes us a couple of days to get the session edited and posted, but I will definitely let you all know when it is available for viewing on YouTube. And I will also share, as we're going through the session, I'll share the link for our YouTube channel as well, so you can see that in the chat box throughout the session. I'll also share with you the link to sign up for our next two sessions on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter 201. So I'll share those Eventbrite links with you. What's great is if you missed Social Media 101 last week, we have that recording that will be on our YouTube channel, but you can also sign up for the session that we are going to be hosting in March. So you won't have to wait too long to join us for that particular session. So at this time, I want to go ahead and introduce our presenters. They've been doing these series for us for, several months now, and they're all really good. And every time we get even better. So I'm super excited to hear what Aviva and Christina have to share with us today. So our presenters are Aviva Ashmera with Solve KC and Christina Hager with Ovations Digital. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to our presenters.
Thank you so much, Brandy, and thank you so much to everyone who has attended and to the Women's Business Center for sponsoring this amazing series. We're grateful to everyone who's in attendance today. And so, as Brandy said, I'm Christina Hager, and I'm the president of Ovations Digital, and I'm a social media strategist. So no, I don't just play on Facebook all day. What I really aim to do is to help individuals, businesses, brands, and organizations use Facebook and other social media tools strategically to reach their business goals. And that's really what it's all about. And so I have clients on the B2C side and B2B side: health, wellness, fitness, fashion, beauty, e-commerce, and restaurants, and a lot of clients who are in SaaS, tech, healthcare, consultants, doctors, as well as individual speakers, authors, board members, and nonprofits. And so both Aviva and I really get a chance to see a lot of different businesses in our community, as well as nationally. I am also a member of the Forbes Communication Council since 2019. And so I write monthly columns for Forbes about social media and social media tips and strategies. And that's part of what we will talk about today, some of the trends that are forecasted for 2021 and how you can really use those for your business. Aviva and I are both business owners. And so when we created this information, we know as a business owner all that you have to do, the many hats you wear. And so we really want you to leave with some takeaways that are doable for you, and so that you can hopefully get the best ROI for your social media efforts.
That's right. Thanks, Christina and Brandy and the Women's Business Center. Thank you also, just as Christina said, we love your sponsorship of our classes because we have the opportunity to really share current relevant content with hundreds of business owners and nonprofit organizations. And we love being able to do that for the community. So thank you, Brandy and the Women's Business Center, for that. I'm Aviva. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Solve KC. I've been giving a version of this class for the past 5 years to entrepreneurs and marketing professionals. And I am thrilled to be partnering on this series with Christina. She is my personal social media guru. So I feel so lucky for all of you that you're going to have the opportunity to learn from her. As I mentioned in our pre-session, we've got almost 150 people signed up today from 26 states and 6 countries. Many of you have joined us before, so thank you. Many of you we know personally. We love having you join our classes, and many of you are new, so welcome, and we hope you sign up for the rest of them. If you haven't already, go ahead and put down where you're from and your business name so that we can be supportive of you and your business on social media. So like Christina, my firm has B2B, B2C, and nonprofit clients. We work with many board of directors as well, and we help them with strategic planning, implementation, competitive marketplace assessment, organizational design. Regardless of the work, common to all of it is that marketing and social media are critical for these businesses. Personally, I have been a part of a international B2C company, 2 international B2B firms, and now I've got my own B2B consulting company. And even all of the companies I've personally been a part of use social media differently, as do Christina and I with our own small businesses. So really, our hope for you today and throughout our series is that you will figure out what works best for you. We are going to teach you tips. We'll share some insights, and we'll share some real business examples so you can get around and check them out on social media and see those that are doing a great job to get ideas for your own business. As Brandy said, for those of you that are still joining us, this is the second class in a 4-part series. You can sign up for the rest of the classes the same way you did this class. Brandy will be including those links as well. And we are going to be going kind of fast today. We always seem to run out of time. So as you have questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat, and we will do our very best to get to as many of those questions as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so our agenda for today, we are going to start with just a couple of basics on why social media is so important for your business. You know, my background, for those of you that have had a chance to check me out a little bit, is I'm an economist. So economists like data, and we wanted to just share a few important data points to really just impress upon you how important it is to have a good social media game for your business. We'll chat a little bit about how COVID has impacted Facebook, and then we're going to start getting into what language happens on social media. I know it can be intimidating for a lot of people, so Christina's going to share some social speak lingo to kind of get you oriented. And then we're going to spend the bulk of our time together really doing a deep dive on Facebook. All this amazing content that we've pulled together on algorithms, business pages, Facebook ads, groups, going live. We're also going to talk to you about tools because, as Christina said, we know this can get a little overwhelming and we don't want you to opt out because it's overwhelming. And then we're really excited to share some 2021 trends with you. Along the way, we're going to stop for Q&A, but you go ahead and post those questions as you have them. And I'm going to be watching that log. And again, we'll try to get to as many as possible. And then at the very end, we want to make sure you have the opportunity to take what we're teaching you today and make it real for your business. So Brandy went ahead and sent out some handouts for you. Those are worksheets that you can use as a resource, not only to remember some of the key things that we're teaching you, but we've given you some calendar pages. So you literally have something that you can write on to begin creating your Q1 2021 Facebook plan. Okay, so when you think about social media, do you ever feel like one of these pictures? Do you feel like, you know what, that social media thing, it's for the young kids and they've kind of lost the art of even how to have a conversation, because even if they're only 2 feet apart from each other, they're on their devices? Or do you maybe feel, you know, social media kind of reminds me of 8th grade chemistry class. I'm afraid if I combine the wrong things, I'm going to have an explosion. You won't. I promise you, you won't. Or it could be for those of you who grew up when the Rubik's Cube was launched. It's a little bit like the Rubik's Cube. I'm just not sure how to get the right combination to win. Well, guess what? We're going to teach you a lot of that in our class today. So, you know, starting with the stats, I don't know how many of you realize it, but 74% of consumers, 74%, rely on social media to make buying decisions. So if you have a product or a service, you have to be on social media for your business. You simply have to be. Now, interestingly, there is one demographic that is more influenced than others, although they all are, by social media. And those are the millennials. So for those of you that are wondering, the millennials are also called Gen Y, and those are consumers in the age groups of 23 to 38. Today, they have a 200 billion spending power. That's just today. But over their lifetime, it's going to grow to $10 trillion. So whether your target consumer is a millennial today, or whether they will evolve to be in the age group of your target consumer, you really need to understand how this age group uses social media to influence their purchasing decisions.
Absolutely. And whether it's millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, boomers, whoever you're trying to attract to your organization, people are all following social media for different reasons. They want to, of course, learn about products and services and stay up to date. And this stay up to date piece has been critical since March when we started to see COVID hit. Of course, people want deals, but really people are using social media because they want to be entertained. They want to be educated. They want to be inspired. So here's what we don't see on this list: being sold to or people being advertised to. So it's really important that when you manage your social media efforts, it's critical not just because it's what your customers want or don't want, but it's critical because especially on platforms like Facebook, if all you're ever doing is selling to your customers, your content isn't going to be able to break through the algorithms. And so we'll talk a little bit about that later. But it's important, as Aviva said, to understand generations. And why that is, as Aviva said, we have a generation of millennials and a generation that they don't know catalogs. They aren't going to have the same B2C or B2B experience as the generations who came before then. And they're quickly overtaking everyone in numbers. And so the first time we have consumers on the B2B and the B2C side who care just as much about how a product or service or organization makes them feel as to what the end product actually is. We're seeing more and more consumers caring about the mission, the vision of organizations, as well as the social causes they support. So it's important that your social media sort of mirror all of that. Aviva mentioned millennials and their consumer behaviors. I think it's important to note, especially for my B2B folks on the call, for the first time at the end of last year, at the end of 2020, millennials overtook Gen X as the most populous generation in the workforce. So they now make up more than half of the United States workforce. So the chances are, if you're offering a B2B service or product, the person on the other end of the email or the social media channel or the phone is a millennial. So it's important to understand how they are reacting to social media. Now let's talk about, I alluded to COVID. Let's talk about what happened to Facebook when COVID hit. So Facebook exploded. The use went way up in March, which makes sense. We were all sort of stuck inside. But a lot of people were using Facebook to get their news, not just about COVID, but everything. And in fact, 52% of Americans use Facebook to get their news. Not just 52% of the people on Facebook, Americans in general. We saw Facebook groups exploding. And an example of this is a guy in Austin started a Facebook group just about COVID awareness. By the next morning, he had 10,000 members in that group. And that is really powerful because it was people communicating with each other, total strangers. That can be valuable to your business. We'll talk about that later in groups. We saw ad spend lowered. A lot of factors happened with this, but why that happened initially is so many advertisers had to pull their dollars off of Facebook because it was no longer appropriate, such as like cruise lines who were spending billions of dollars on Facebook ads no longer had really anything to advertise in March and April. So all of a sudden that space freed up on Facebook and it lowered the cost of ads generally. We're seeing the cost of ads start to pick back up to where it was, but it was a huge trend. Also, Facebook did a lot to combat COVID. They donated a lot to relief efforts. They donated a lot to healthcare workers. They invested a lot in supporting fact checkers and the news industries. And they also tried to do a pretty good job of banning ads that were like exploiting the reselling of COVID-19 test kits or medical face masks, things that shouldn't have been sold on Facebook. So that's really how it addressed it. Now, before we talk about the success of Facebook and how you can use it for your business, we always think it's fun to tell a story of a business who really harnessed the power of social media and Facebook in particular to do something great. So I'm sure maybe some of us were eating a lot of pizza in the last 9 months, hanging out in our houses, and maybe you still are. So let's talk about the proof is in the pizza, my good friend Domino's. In the 1950s, Pizza Hut was everything. The first pizza to go into space, the first pizza to go to the White House. But then in the 1980s, Domino's came on the scene. They were the first real franchise, and they were huge. They were everywhere. Watch a movie from the 1980s. You'll see Domino's and then a can of Coke or Pepsi next to it. They were amazing, and they were everywhere. But something happened, okay? And by 2003-ish, the bottom fell out. They were like $3 a share, and the reputation was that their pizza was terrible, it tastes awful, and they weren't going to make it. And they knew they had to do something amazing. And so what they did was they remarketed themselves really as an e-commerce business who sells pizza, not a pizza business or a restaurant. And they launched the Oh Yes We Did marketing campaign. And what they did was the new CEO and the head of marketing and the head chef got together on camera, and they read all of the bad reviews that they had gotten from customers, things saying how awful their pizza tasted, that tasted like cardboard, some expletives. And they read it and they released it in commercials, and they owned it. They owned that the recipe was terrible. So they changed it. Just that PR move, and sales and 32.3%. But that wasn't enough. They realized that Facebook was just coming on the scene, and they knew it was going to be something big and something special. And gosh, I wish I had been a part of this marketing team who thought of this e-commerce company who sells pizza. So they went on Facebook and they started talking to their followers and saying, we want ideas from you. We want to know what you want us to do with our business, with our pizza, with our business model, with ordering. And they really took feedback on Facebook, and they pushed that up the executive chain, and they rewarded some of those people with monetary gifts or pizza, and actually seeing their dreams sort of come to fruition. And this was huge. They also made a huge emphasis on the digital ordering process, and they created that pizza tracker app. So everything was digital, 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 and it really started on Facebook. This was huge. Because of it, they rose to number one again by 2017, $12.3 billion in global sales. Now, you may not know this, you can order a pizza from your messenger in Facebook, or you can order a pizza using emojis and Twitter. So when they said they were going to embrace it, they did. And it's really a testament to thinking outside the box, the pizza box, and using social media, not just to sell, but to connect with your audience, to wonder what they want. And then the proof was in the pizza, because they took what their consumers and their followers wanted, and they actually did it. Very cool example.
Yeah, what I love about that story is it really illustrates how Domino's reinvented themselves. And a key component to that was putting that customer first and understanding how to engage with them in a way that's relevant to them, which is really what we're going to try to share with you throughout our entire time today. Okay, so this next slide that we're going to go through is in your handouts. It has a lot of information on it. It has probably been pulled from over 30 sources. And Christina and I call this page the money page because it's got so much great information for you. So let's start going through it. So, one of the things that we share with you is if you're not yet on social media for your business, start small. Pick one or two platforms. If you're already on social media, make sure the ones that you are on are right for your target consumer and your business. And then also really understand what it takes to get the best return on investment of your time and your effort and your money. But then also think about, are there any other social media platforms that are relevant? Because things are constantly changing. And that's why every time we teach this class, we spend quite a bit of time updating all of our numbers and updating the trend slides. So we're going to talk about Facebook today, but we wanted to do a quick comparison on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So let's talk about Facebook. I think most of you know it is the #1 most popular social platform. It is the #1 site to influence purchase. So for almost all businesses, Facebook is relevant unless for whatever reason your demographic is not on Facebook at all. Facebook has 70% of US adults on Facebook, and there are over 90 million Facebook business pages. Facebook Stories now has 500 million active daily users. And I say those words so emphatically because when we gave this class the last time, which was in October, that number was 300 million. So it just goes to show you the kind of popularity that Stories has with users that are on there. On average, people spend almost an hour on Facebook daily. It's not all at once. It's usually broken into 6 or 7 times throughout the day. You can think about how you use Facebook personally. And it is best for photos, videos, links, and events. LinkedIn, which is going to be our next class next Wednesday, is business oriented. It is about news and articles and conversations. It is an ideal way to connect with top industry influencers. So if you have a B2B business, especially, or if you're a nonprofit organization, you should definitely consider being on LinkedIn. There are 40 million business pages. It does skew a little bit older with almost 80% of users that are 35 plus and 44% have what is considered a higher income, so 75,000 plus. There are 90 million senior level influencers and 64 million decision makers on LinkedIn. So again, if you want your business to be viable, or if you yourself are a leader in an organization, it's really important to understand how to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn added Stories in Q4 of 2020. It's not as well developed as some of the other platforms, but we'll talk about that more in the LinkedIn class. It is ideal for networking and building your professional credibility. And as I said, if you're a B2B business, you really should consider being on LinkedIn. Instagram is a social sharing site that's really focused around pictures and 60-second videos. Unlike LinkedIn, it's kind of got the opposite dynamic where 90% of the users are younger than 35. However, the 55 plus age demographic is actually having the greatest growth on LinkedIn. So, on Instagram. So it's important to understand how Instagram is evolving. 75% of US businesses use Instagram, and on average, people are on there again almost an hour, so 53 minutes. It is ideal for mobile devices. It is ideal for photos, videos, and stories, and image-friendly businesses. So looking at the businesses that are signed in today, it looks like a lot of you do have image-friendly businesses. So if you haven't already, please consider signing up for the Instagram class. All right, let's talk about Twitter. It's the second most recognized social platform. They do limit posts to 280 characters, and it really is all about conversation and customer questions and news. The last time we pulled the statistic, we had 600 million users. It might have changed a little bit with some of the things going on in our country the past week, but that's the number we're going with. Twitter is where hashtags started. Although all of the platforms use hashtags, Twitter is really the originator. 67% of businesses are on Twitter. It is ideal for PR and news and real-time customer engagement. So if you have a business that centers around interaction or being real-time, Twitter is something that you should consider. And again, we'll talk about that in a lot more detail in our class in 2 weeks, where we also talk about Instagram.
Aviva, we're going to have to write the Twitter class like that morning.
Yeah, I know, because it keeps changing.
Before then, but we'll get you the most up-to-date stuff. So let's talk the talk and walk the walk. Before you enter the world of social media, you need to be able to speak the terms to understand what we're talking about and understand how they're referred to in the platform. So we're giving you everything today as it's referred to on most of the platforms, but especially Facebook. So if you open up your Facebook feed, that's when you open up your phone and you see that rolling list of content on Facebook. Might look like videos, posts, pictures, as well as you'll see some ads in there. The reach refers to the number of people who have viewed your ad or post at least one time, and impressions is the number of time an ad is on their screen for the first time. So reach and impression are similar, but have some differences. And then engagement, which is a huge thing because you want people to be engaging with your social media channel. It refers to the number of actions people take on your post. So it might be liking it, commenting on it, sharing it. Those are engagements. Cost per click and cost per impressions are really two terms that refer to boosted posts or Facebook ads in general. And that's just how much does it cost you for someone to click on that ad. And those numbers are important because we need to understand the ROI and how to evaluate your social media efforts. Traffic is any objective designed to drive traffic or drive people to your website, or it might be an app. And then consideration is anything getting people to think about your business, to seek more information. And so there are some different considerations that we'll see when we get to the Facebook ads page. People always want to know, well, what's the average engagement rate? What's the average reach? So the average engagement rate for a Facebook post is 3.6%. This might have changed a little bit in the last month. But so that means if you have 100 people who follow your Facebook business page, really each post, just expect about 3 of them to engage with it. And if you're getting 3 of them, you're actually doing pretty well. It doesn't seem like that because that doesn't seem like enough, but that is the average engagement rate. And then the average organic reach, that means a post that doesn't have any money behind it, so not an ad, it's about 5%, 5.5%. It's nice to know where you stack up. And if you're wondering where your particular industry stacks up, because there are all sorts of different numbers, there are lots and lots of different resources. Social media today, social, you can just really Google what an average engagement rate for SaaS or for tech, whatever it is, and see where your page stacks up against some others.
Yeah, when we first pulled that statistic, I was kind of shocked that it was so low, and it can be a little frustrating. It's like, wow, I'm doing all this work and my average numbers are in low single digits. But that's why we're teaching this class, because that's an average number, and our goal is to help you be above average. Okay, so let's talk about some fast facts for Facebook. Wow, that's hard to say. Fast facts for Facebook. So how often should you post is usually one of the most common questions. The algorithms would suggest, and all the data would suggest, a minimum of 3 times a week and a maximum of 10 times a week. The next most frequently asked question is, okay, well, what time of the week should I post? I just added this chart on the lower right-hand corner around global engagement. And according to this, and it's really started to narrow it in previous classes, our numbers were a lot wider, but it's definitely the work week and midday, with Wednesdays and Thursdays being the best time. So the darkest of blues are the highest engagement. So it's important to know that, because later we're going to talk about scheduling. So as you think about when your 3 to 10 times are going to be, if you can try to get it into the dark or blue sections, you're going to have a better chance of breaking through everything else that's on Facebook. So how do you boost? How do you make sure that you are above that average engagement level? The most important thing is to be authentic and to know your audience. If you don't know who your target consumer is or who your audience is that you're trying to reach, sign up for my consumer targeting class, which is offered in about 6 weeks. It's on the Women Business Center site, and I'll walk you through how to figure that out. But assuming that you know that, you should always be targeting your content to something that's appealing to them. Have photos. They generate 120% more engagement. Just think about if you are on Facebook just as your personal self, What kinds of posts are more interesting to you? It's always more interesting if you've got a photo or even a video, which are now 11% of Facebook posts, with 8 billion videos being viewed daily. Facebook Live, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, is 4 times more likely to be recorded, to be watched, than pre-recorded. Now, size does matter. So posts that are shorter than 250 characters have 60% more engagement. I know we all have those friends that tend to post those super long posts, the ones where you constantly have more ... And as much as you love them, you're like, I don't have time to read this post. We don't want all of your posts to be like that. Now, sometimes it's relevant, but in general, shorter than 250 characters. If you ask a question or something that will encourage engagement in your post, you will have 2x the engagement. And something that I just learned from Christina last year, no more than 3 hashtags when you're on Facebook. Instagram is very different, and we will talk about that in our Instagram class. But if you're on Facebook, we don't want you to have 15 hashtags. You will actually get penalized by the algorithms by having that many hashtags. This slide is in your handouts, by the way.
So a lot of people want to know about the Facebook algorithm. Why do I never see a post? Why do I never see what my daughter posts? Why do I always get ads from Macy's? Why am I always seeing my college roommate's husband? He posts crazy things. Well, here's how you understand this, is that Facebook values different content in different ways. And it takes all of your individual history of what you've done on Facebook, what you've liked, what you've shared, what you've commented on. It takes, and your interests, hobbies, everything you've filled out on Facebook. It takes all of that and it puts it in this giant Facebook algorithm machine. And it comes up with serving you the content it most likely thinks that you want to see. Because the goal of Facebook, and this is really important to remember because it really should inform all of the content you post, how you post it, and everything. The goal of Facebook is to keep you on Facebook. So Facebook is smart and knows that if it gets you content that you enjoy and that you want to see, you'll spend longer than your 58 not interested in relevant ads that you don't like. It's not going to keep you engaged in the platform. So Facebook is very smart and it understands what you want to see. And so let me get into the nitty gritty about that a little bit. Is Facebook values content in different ways. So it gives an inventory of all the posts available to display everything, your friends, your family, everything that there is. Then it gives the signals that tell Facebook what each thing is. And this is actually what you have some influence over. Is it a video? Is it a really long chunk of text with no breaks? Is it a photo? That's going to give Facebook its signals. And then it gives predictions. This is what I was talking about. How will you, an individual, react? So if Aviva has gone through and reacted and commented on all of Tory Burch, all of their posts, then Tory Burch is likely going to show up in her algorithm. Likewise, if you keep wondering why that one guy keeps showing up on your Facebook algorithm, are you commenting on all of his posts, even if you're arguing with him? If so, that's why you keep seeing him. So then it will use that to give some prediction, and then it'll give this piece of content sort of a final score and decide where it goes and who sees it. Now, most of us don't understand that. And why would we? You don't work in Facebook. And it's changing constantly. Facebook hasn't really been super transparent about how they've done this. They're starting to get better by even giving us some of this information. And it helps us as business owners and people who have a business Facebook page a little bit more understanding about how things work. Well, now, so what do we do about that? Great, Christina, there's this giant Facebook machine that sends our content through. What can we as business owners or people that run a Facebook page do about signals? There are a lot of different signals. The type of story it is, the time it's posted, how long people are viewing it. So for example, if you're putting up a minute video, the chances that people might view all of that video, maybe. If you're putting up a 10-minute video, man, unless it's really, really compelling, people aren't just going to watch the whole thing. What about a 15-second video? Yes. And so that helps inform the kind of content that might be better for your Facebook page. And then there's these active signals, which are engagement rates, comments, replies, likes, and shares. How can you change your content or the way you're sharing content to try to get comments, replies, likes, and shares? We'll talk a little bit about that. And then these major categories of ranking signals. It looks at the demographics, the media type, the popularity. People love memes right now. They're easy to look at, they're quick, they're fast to share, very, very popular. Videos, as Aviva said, very, very popular. And so Facebook sort of looks at all of those different type of signals and figures out what is the kind of content. So here's what's going to kill your engagement. Engagement baiting. When you're asking people, do this to get that, or down ranking because of false information. So if you're asking someone a question just for question's sake, how's your day? Write it in the comments. After a while, Facebook realizes that that's not really genuine communication. If you want to know something from your consumers, be specific, share information with them, have fun with it, but not just which one do you like, the red or blue, right in the comments. If you keep doing that, Facebook realizes that you're just kind of doing that for the sake of doing it. If you share false information over and over again, or even once, I would just not do it. Facebook will downrank you, which means it will show your content to less people. If you constantly send your audience to your website, Facebook doesn't like it. Let's remember my number one rule about Facebook. Facebook wants you to stay in Facebook. They don't want you to constantly send people to YouTube or to your website. They want you to stay in Facebook. So we have to figure out ways that you can share information without always sending people to your website. If you post the same things over and over again, or if you run the same ads to the same group of people and never mix up the content, all of that is really bad for your Facebook engagement. So avoid those things at all costs if you can. Now, how do you break through the algorithm? So these are combining some of the best trends for 2021 with some of the best practices. Content that entertains, educates, inspires, that you're not saying buy this, but that you're giving someone some value. And let me give you an example. Let's say you're a shoe store. Instead of constantly just putting up pictures or videos of your shoes and saying buy this shoe, something that would entertain, educate, or inspire, ask people to send in videos of them or of their feet dancing to a particular song that's really hot on the radio right now. That's huge. Publish a blog or a short fall fashion tips for your feet, something like that. So give them some content that if they like shoes, they're going to like, but that's not just your same shoe over and over again and you're selling it. Post consistently and when your audience is online. So Aviva gave you a great chart that you can look at, but also know that if you have a Facebook business page, which you have a business, you should, and we'll talk about that next. You can go to your Insights tab and it will give you a little chart of when your audience is online and when they're interacting. And you might be really surprised. I have a feeling it will most mirror that chart Aviva showed us, but I was really surprised to even go in and see my Facebook business page has a huge peak in activity at 5 p.m. I have no idea what my people are doing at 5 p.m., but thank you for following my business page. But so look on your insights, because then if you know that, then you should schedule a lot of your content for 5 p.m. and ask for user-generated content. That's something that your followers create the content and share it with you. People want to be social on social media. They love taking pictures of their cool kicks and putting them on your page. They love taking pictures of the food in your restaurant. They love taking pictures of themselves doing and being. So embrace that, ask for it, and then use it. Use the best practices. So Aviva gave you the tip about the hashtags. If you know that's a best practice for Facebook, even if it's not the same as what you're doing on Instagram, that's okay. You should follow the best practices for that particular channel. Boost your successful posts. And when I say boost, I mean boost with some dollars behind them. If you know a post is organic and doing really well, engagement, go ahead and put a little ad spend behind that, because that's something that's a successful piece of content that now can be seen by more people. And also, we just shared with you the average Facebook engagement rate. for videos and stats. Now, let me tell you a crazy stat that I just read, and this is true. When you post a video natively into Facebook, that means you don't send someone to a link and send them somewhere else. You actually post it into Facebook like you would post a picture. We see an increase, and it tells us that when you post natively, you get something like a 300% increase in your engagement rate of comments from that native video. So post those videos into Facebook directly. Don't keep sending people to Vimeo or YouTube to look at your videos. Huge for engagement.
I love all those algorithm tips because I feel like I'm constantly learning, and it's just helping me to refine what I'm doing with my posts, whether it's timing or content or how I'm designing the interaction element of it. So you guys have been sending so many great questions. I've been trying to answer them as we get them. We do have one that I think applies to all kinds of content, so I'd like to share it. Carly asks, if you're doing a content in a post, I found that people like the post, but do not engage with the contest criteria. So does that mean they don't like the prize, or they don't have time to engage in the contest, or both? Does it mean that your followers are not interested in your profile in that way? Should I not be doing contests anymore? Help me out.
Okay, so
yes,
contest, great. No, it's lots of great questions. And I'll say bottom line is this. Contest can be a great way to increase engagement. Make sure that if you run a contest on Facebook, you follow the rules. And number one is to say in black and white, this contest is not affiliated with, nor is it sponsored by Facebook. So number one, Carly, make sure you're saying that, because Facebook might be downranking your contest and not showing it to people because it's mad at you that you didn't follow the rules. So that's my number one. My number two is contests usually get a lot of action. So then you have to go to the problem solving mode. Is it the prize? Is it the rules? Am I asking them to do too many things? Now, here's a great thing. You have access to your business page. Ask them, hey, I want to run a contest. Would you rather have this prize or this prize? Run a poll on Facebook and see what they say. Then you might be able to get to the meat and potatoes of what's not being super successful with your contests right now.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas, Christina. We have another question. So for any of you that have an e-commerce site, and I hope I'm pronouncing your first name correctly, Tahir is asking, if we can't sell on Facebook and we are an e-commerce store, then what should we do?
Okay, so, and let me be clear, you obviously have to sell your product on Facebook. I'm not suggesting you just sort of chat about the weather with your consumers, but it just can't be all of your post. Can't be saying, buy this, buy this, buy this. So a few tips. There is now a Facebook shop in Facebook where people can shop for your products in Facebook. Facebook likes that because, again, you're staying in the platform. So that's huge. If you're in e-commerce, get your Facebook shop set up. Instagram also has a shop. Get that set up. Huge, 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 huge. The second thing is just make sure that you're not constantly driving people to your e-commerce website and that's all that you're doing. Make sure that you're still providing value. So I can't see the chat, so I don't know what kind of business you're in, but just know that you're mixing up the content so you're not always saying, take advantage of the sale, 20% off. That just gets people fatigued, but maybe show them a cute video of your product. Maybe give them a little 5 tips that would go with your product. That's what I mean when I'm saying don't constantly sell, because people get fatigued by that. But of course, if you're in e-commerce, yes, you have to sell your product on Facebook. Use Facebook store, Facebook shop, whatever they call it, if you can.
Right. I've also seen retailers really successfully using video. So talking about a new product that's come in, or talking about a product that is trending, and using that as a post. Okay, I've got a question here about hashtags. So if the recommendation is to only use 3 hashtags, what about other tags to show our audience or our trending audience?
So other tags, as in, I'm not sure if I understand the question, if it means to tag other businesses or organizations or other trends. It's
Right.
always great to tag other people, organizations, trends, people that you can associate yourself with.
I'm
or if it's
assuming it
mixing up
is
the hashtags, yes, it's also good to try a variety of hashtags.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is mix up your hashtags. So yes, sometimes it's really hard to choose the 3 best hashtags. Figure out which ones have the largest audiences and then divide them up. I mean, if you've got 6 or 10 hashtags that you know are all relevant, you can't, our recommendation is you don't put them all in one post, but as you're posting 3 to 10 times a week, you can very easily mix up which hashtags you're using on your different posts. Okay, there was a question around, is there a website where we can check out popular hashtags? I would say just Google it. Google is amazing, and it's how most businesses find out a lot of information about social media. So feel free to do that. What are the best hashtags for whatever industry you're in? Is a great place to start. And then they'll give you a lot of suggestions on other links that you can click on. So good luck with that. We're going to move on. First of all, we love all these questions, so definitely please keep them coming. Okay, so I know some of you might be thinking, do I even need a Facebook business page, or is my personal page all that I need? Here's why you would need a Facebook business page: to gain insight on your customers, to gather their emails, to enhance your business's customer service. Facebook business page is also where you can run targeted ads, and we'll talk about ads in a few slides, for better return on investment. It's where you can build your brand loyalty. It's where you can drive traffic to your website. Now, we did tell you before, don't do that in every post. We don't want you to do that in every post, but it is a piece of content that you can post every now and then. And it's also a great place to keep an eye on your competition. So we've got a couple of fun facts here. 78% of American consumers say they've discovered products on Facebook. So remember, my opening slide said 74% of consumers use social media to learn about products. Well, right here, you've got a number for Facebook specifically. And 39% of users will follow a Facebook page in order to receive a special offer. So if you have the type of business where you can give a little incentive for anybody that saw something on your Facebook page, that's something for you to consider as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the Facebook business page. You should think of it as your storefront. So we've got listed here 3 Kansas City examples. Joe's Kansas City is a barbecue restaurant. Kansas City Ballet is a nonprofit organization. I'm actually on the board for them. And then Commerce Bank is one of our biggest regional banks. And I've noted the number of followers that they have on their Facebook page. But the other reason we're calling out these 3 businesses, whether you're joining us from Kansas City or anywhere in the country or across the world, these are 3 examples in different industries that do a really nice job on social media, not only on Facebook, but on other social media platforms. So we're sharing them with you so you can check them out and you can see the range of the type of content that they put out on their social media. So your Facebook business page, it is searchable and public. So it's not limited to just whoever your friends might be. It allows potential customers to check you out, to get a better understanding of your services, and to read customer reviews if you happen to have those on your page. It provides customizable and measurable advertising. It's a great place for you to showcase your hours, your address, and how to get to your location if you have a physical location, especially in the times that we are in today, where hours change and services might change or anything might change about your business model. Your Facebook business page is a great place to keep all of that information updated. It does increase your search engine optimization, and most importantly, it gives you a chance to connect and engage with your customers. So another fun fact, customers who like a business on Facebook are almost 80% more likely to make a purchase from that business. So like we said at the opening, for most businesses, because the majority of the adult population is on Facebook, Facebook is a great place for you to have a business page.
So one of the benefits that Aviva mentioned is when you have a business page, you can run ads, and those ads can be really targeted for your desired audience. Your Facebook ad could amplify your organic reach. So maybe you already have 100 followers, but you want to see more followers. It can help you do that. It can help you create ads that are served to very specific audiences and pretty cheaply. Facebook ads is still, I would say, the premier or one of the premier least expensive and best ways to advertise to consumers. You can find new leads. And I think one of the best things about Facebook ads is you can change them daily, weekly, monthly, on a Tuesday, where you want to. That's an amazing opportunity that you just don't have with a lot of other traditional ads. So it's simple. When you build the ad, you choose an objective, and I'll walk you through this a little bit. You set a budget and select your audience. You decide where you want to advertise on the platform, and then you manage and measure your ad. And it's important because the post's average organic reach, again, it's only going to about 6% of your total page likes. So out of 100 people, maybe only 5 or 6 people ever are seeing that piece of content. That can feel deflating. But with just a little bit of money for ads, you can see that number really start to increase, and it can be really beneficial. So let's talk about building an ad that works. First, and I'll say Facebook Suite does an excellent job of walking you through this. You do not have to be a digital mastermind to start with Facebook ads. If you're a business owner, a marketing team, small business owner, you might hire someone to do them, or you might try to do them yourself. You create a campaign with an objective, and you link that objective to your business goals. So those objectives might be driving traffic to your website, building brand awareness, increasing engagement, getting video views, getting people onto your online store, whatever that, or lead gen, whatever that looks like for you. And then you name the marketing campaign. You might consider testing, and I would definitely say to do this, some different copy or different photos or videos to see which works for your audience in a better way. And then you're going to target your demographic. You're going to build your audience. So Facebook has an awesome way of, you can target a lot of different audiences. You can create an audience. You choose them based on interest, age, where do they live, what do they do, how much money do they make, all of those things. You can have a custom audience. This is a really, really targeted audience. This might be people that have already gone to your website, or people who have already given you their email. And then you can create something called a lookalike audience. Now, this is awesome. You have to create a custom audience. You have to have, I think, minimum 100 emails. I might be incorrect by that. And once you do that, you plug them into Facebook, and Facebook spits out a lookalike audience. Means people that act on Facebook, behave, have similar interest, locations, age, genders, income levels, all of these things that look like your existing customer database. So that's a really powerful audience that you can use. So if you've already acquired 500 emails, or you've already had several people buy your product or service, using those emails and creating a lookalike audience gets you a lot of bang for your buck. Also remember, this is 93% of Facebook's ad revenue comes from mobile advertising. I actually think they've just released some new stats, like quite literally last week, that it's even more than that at this point. And we're seeing that people are giving you something like 1.7 seconds on content. So your ad has to look good. It has to be ready to go for it to break through the algorithm and to really get people's attention. Facebook also has ad placement. It asks you where you want your ad to be. And you might have seen that sometimes ads show up in your main feed on your phone. Sometimes they're over to the side. Sometimes they show up in a messenger. Sometimes ads are served to other networks. The great thing about that now is, we'll talk about in trends, Facebook has a way to just figure that out for you. And then you want to set your budget and your schedule. How much money do you want to spend overall? And how much, how many days do you want this to run? It's important to know Facebook is not $1 per day or $5 per day. It's not an even transaction like if you would buy a billboard or buy a placement in a magazine. Facebook works on sort of and almost a bidding war on what else is going on that day. And so there is space reserved for industries, for ads, and you are really competing against everything else going on that day. So for example, Black Friday or Super Bowl Sunday, the ad space is very expensive. So you can kind of think about it like a commercial. Even if you don't know anything about Facebook ads, we all would figure buying a commercial on Super Bowl Sunday is really expensive. Whereas buying commercial space on a random Tuesday in February, maybe not so expensive. So you have to sort of consider those things. And what makes a great ad? I gave you an example of this Lyft ad. It's an awesome ad. Great picture, easy to see. It says that it cares about you. This is from like smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. This is when I think really just essential workers were going out. If you must travel, please take care of yourself. We're here, need us. Count on Lyft. All that language, even though it's selling a service, it's not in your face. Come take a lift. You need to. It's we care about you. And so how you create your language and how you create your physical asset, this picture, really good. It has the pop of pink, that's their brand colors, really, really smart. And you might use 3 or 4 different images and try them out and see what it looks like and what does best for your ads. All right, so if you really want to optimize your ads, if you're going to drive people to traffic on your website, there's something called the Facebook Pixel that you want to install on your website. You want to test everything. A great way to create Facebook ads is to use user-generated content or repurpose the content that was doing really well. If a post or a video, a picture got a lot of engagement on Facebook, make that picture or post or video your ad. And if you see an ad's not doing great, don't let it keep running for a month. Just take it out. That's the great thing about Facebook ads. You can really change them as you want. Build those ads for your lookalike audience and use your email list and make sure what I call ad fatigue. Facebook actually is assigns your ads a fatigue score, and it'll tell you when your ad is being just seen by the same people over and over and over again. And then you kind of need to mix it up and use a new image or a video or some new copy, so they're not seeing the same thing over and over again. And here are 2 great, a B2B and a B2C ad that are really hitting on all cylinders. Great colors, great brand colors, getting you in with some easy, quick to read copy. And Bombas in general does great advertising. Monday.com is really speaking to people like a certain demographic, Mac users. And so these are 2 great examples. And if you, again, Google is our friend. If you Google best Facebook ads, you will see so many examples of ads, perhaps in your industry, and look at them and say, what makes this ad so great? And then adapt that when you're creating your ads.
Okay, so we have this Q&A ready to go, but I'm gonna read one that came through that I bet a lot of people have on their minds before we get to the actual slide. Sure. So this question is from Joanne, and she wants to know, what is the difference between Facebook Boost and Facebook ads?
Okay, excellent question. A Facebook Boost is a piece of content, a post you've already posted to Facebook, and then you're giving it a boost, meaning it's already been posted to Facebook just normally to your business page, and then you're putting some money behind it to serve it to more people. You can choose a particular demographic that you want to serve it to, ages, area, location, but it's already a post that has already gone live on Facebook. That's one method. There are also Facebook ads. You create those back behind the scenes in your Facebook business manager, and an ad is something that you create from the ground up. You put in the campaign, you create a campaign, an ad set, an ad. So they're built in 2 separate fashions, and you can have both. You could just do one or the other. If you're nervous and you're just getting started with Facebook ads, I think the easiest way to get in is to look at your posts that you've posted, see which post has the greatest engagement, and maybe try to boost that post for $10, $5. Choose an audience you think or you know is the right audience for you, and then see how much better that post does. That's a good way to start with spending some money on Facebook. You can do that, and then you can tiptoe your way into Facebook ads. And remember, you can always do both or just one or the other, whatever works for your business.
Thanks, Christina. Okay, so we hope that the last handful of slides helped you figure out about a business page. But if you're still wondering, because we do get asked a lot, do I need both a personal and a business page? Here's our recommendation, or a way to understand the difference between the two. So a personal page is for your personal use. You don't have access to targeted audience data. You do not have the ability to geo-target what you're posting. You don't have the ability to boost or use ads, which is what Christina was just sharing with you. And you don't have the ability to make it look like a storefront. Now, you don't need a Facebook business page if your audience is just not on Facebook. If you're not going to use it to promote or sell your organization, and by sell, what we mean is make people aware that you exist because you've got a product or a service to sell. Or if you just don't have time for multiple social media platforms and you're trying to narrow down what you use, try without a Facebook business page. But in general, as we've shared with you with all of the statistics, most likely a Facebook business page will help your business.
It's very rare that I've ever seen a scenario in a product, brand, or organization that I didn't recommend would have a Facebook business page. And same with Aviva as well. It's just very, very rare. It has to be a really particular niche kind of product for us to recommend that.
Yeah, we have a great question from Joanna. So she's asking, can I have a business page without having a personal page?
Yeah.
I know, right? That's
Okay,
what
so
I was thinking too.
You personally do not have to have a Facebook personal page, but your business page has to be nested under someone's personal page. Someone has to have the profile that nests that under. So if someone else in your organization, if Facebook isn't your thing and someone else in your organization, it is their thing, and your page can live under them, that's fine. You can give people different permissions to be in your business page. People can be full editors, meaning they can do every single thing. They can be admins, meaning they might be able to post, but they can't like run ads. There are, I think, 4 different levels of permissions. So for sure, but someone has to have the personal profile in which to build the business page under.
Okay. We've got a question about targeting. This business has a luxury product, so they're targeting high-end audiences, and they want to know if there's a tool or a feature we can filter to get to our targeted audience.
So I would say lookalike, if you already have an email list, lookalike audiences would be using the build feature in Facebook, asking Facebook to build a lookalike audience for you would be very successful because you already sort of have those emails. If you don't have those emails and you're starting from scratch, you're going to have to make some assumptions about your target audience. So you're going to go to Aviva's consumer targeting workshop. You're going to know who your consumer is, and then probably you're going to filter it for sure by things like income or hobbies, and you might create a couple different audiences and test them out, and then ditch the ones that don't work and keep the ones that are getting you the best return.
Okay, all right, we're going to move on to the next set of slides. We're going to talk about groups.
Oh my gosh, Facebook groups. So Facebook groups are one of the definite like best things that you can do in 2021. Aviva, are you talking about groups or am I?
Oh, I thought you were talking about
Okay, good. I didn't want to jump in and steal your group.
No, we're good.
All right, so I talked a little bit about how the guy who started the group in Texas, and it just like blossomed. And this is what we see happening with groups, because it's a great community on Facebook, and it takes the world of Facebook, which is so huge, and shrinks it in a little bit with a shared interest. Groups can be public, which means anyone can see them, anyone can join. They can be private, which means anyone can see that they exist, but you have to ask for entry. So it's a glass door, you can knock on it and see something's going on, but you can't come in and see everything. Or they're secret, clandestine groups. Nobody knows that they exist unless you get an invitation. I'm in a secret group. It's for moms, nothing too exciting. And so groups allow discussion, news, updates, and they offer just additional services, support, or information. So an individual can start a group, your business can sort of sponsor a group and post in the group. You can create a group for your customers. So for the person who asked the question about the luxury goods, you might create a private group that creates a VIP experience, giving sneak peeks and giving some privileged access behind the scenes. That might be really cool and give people that VIP experience. But all groups, no matter what, you have to have community rules. You have to have active participation. If you're going to start a group, you need to participate in it. And also, we always like to ask if you have a questionnaire for people, like, why do you want to be in this group? It kind of keeps out people that really shouldn't be in your group. And I'll tell you a story about groups from like 2 months ago that worked really well. So there's this dogs based in St. Louis, and they were having a local event, and it was called like a 6 feet away event outside for the restaurant. And they wanted to get word out to people who lived in the area, right? So they reached out to some neighborhood groups that were around the restaurant, and they said, hey, can we publish this about our event in your Facebook group? And so this Facebook event organically, meaning they didn't put a bunch of Facebook ads, they just went into groups. It reached 28,000 people. They got 150 new Facebook likes out of it. They picked up a bunch of Instagram followers, and sales were, I think, 3 times as high on this event as a normal Saturday. And people loved it. So they started doing these events more often, these 6 feet apart, and started bringing some local partnerships. So what they really took was, there are these neighborhood groups. Maybe they know about us, maybe they don't. Let's just ask. Let's see if we can post about our business in them. I'm sure some said no, some said yes, and then they reaped the benefits. You might be able to either create a group or post in groups that could help your business in the same kind of way. And then another big, what we're seeing has always been a trend, but is even more so predicted for 2021, is Facebook Live. This means going live kind of like Channel 5 News style from your Facebook. And here's why. Facebook Live videos get 6 times the interaction of just regular videos, meaning you've already made a video and then you post it to Facebook. They get 10 times the comments. They're watched 3 times longer than regular videos. They get a ton of engagement. But you have to treat Facebook Live like an event. You have to announce it. You have to maybe share it with your email list when you're going to go live. You need to have great lighting. You should practice Facebook Live if you haven't done it. And you really have to engage with your audience during the event, meaning if they've left a comment, you need to like respond to that. That may be hard to do while you're talking, but make sure you go back and do it afterwards. And then if you use Facebook Live regularly, that's another way to get your business through the algorithm, right, of ways that Facebook likes to show that content. And then also people, your followers, start to expect it. So again, this goes back to one of the questions we had earlier. Well, we're in e-commerce. What else can we do besides selling? Aha, go live from inside your store, warehouse, leadership team's house, Starbucks. Go live from somewhere and talk about something cool for your business, a new release, something you're excited about, an event, really anything will get people excited, and make sure you're interacting with them as you do your Facebook Live. And I'm going to tell you something so funny. Facebook Live, I don't know if you remember this Chewbacca mom. A couple years ago, this mom put on a Chewbacca mask and did a Facebook Live from her car. It's still the most viewed Facebook Live, proving people are coming to Facebook and social media in general because they want to be entertained. So remember, make your Facebook Lives a little interesting. But no matter what your product or service is, B2C or B2B, I promise you there is someone in your organization who is dying to go live. And there is something that you could share from your organization that would do really well on a Facebook Live.
Okay, so gosh, we've given you a lot of great information about Facebook for your business. And we want to kind of pull that all together for you to share some tips on how to make your business page a success. We have had such an awesome exchange and interaction on chat and on Q&A today. I've tried to get to as many as possible, but as some of you are still wondering, and maybe you haven't kept up with a lot of the questions that are going on, our goal for you is, how do you optimize your page for results? So first and foremost, make sure your cover image is engaging and it's updated and it reflects your business. So reach is absolutely key. For those of you that are on LinkedIn, this is similar. If you or your employees share a post that's on your business page to your personal page, all of your friends that you have on your personal page will also see that post. So for example, for Solve, many times I will share that to my personal page, because my personal page has thousands and thousands of followers from all over the country and the world. And my business page tends to be more Kansas City focused. Okay, so that's a great tip for you to have if you've got both pages. Make sure you fill your profile out completely. Facebook has those in there for a reason. They do that to help with all of the algorithms. So don't just ignore them because you don't want to give information. It's to help your business get visibility on Facebook. And then content. We've talked about a lot of things regarding content. Make sure you've got pictures available that you can use. Plan your content out, and we'll talk about that more as we wrap up in a few minutes, but also some of those tips are in the handouts that we've shared you. Each post should have a purpose. And like Christina said, go in on a regular basis and figure out what's working and what's not. Is there certain content that gets a lot more engagement, or are there certain times of the day that get a lot more engagement? Learn from that. Keep doing the things that are working and schedule for maximum impact. So we shared with you that chart on the fast facts page that is in your handouts. Focus on those times that are the darker blues. Engage with your followers, right? These are your customers. So ask them questions, run contests and giveaways if that's appropriate for your business. Post value-driven, original, and curated content. In other words, don't just post for the sake of posting. Post stuff that your audience is actually going to care about. And when it's relevant, boost and do ads for increased visibility as well. Okay, so are some of you feeling a little overwhelmed? I know the first time we gave this class, I told Christina I was a little overwhelmed, because even though I was so excited about all of these insights and all of these tips, I was like, gosh, if you are doing this for yourself, for your own business, and you've got all these other hats that you're also wearing because it's your own business, or if it's a side gig and you've already got a full-time job, how the heck are you going to keep this all straight? And how are you going to make sure that you're posting at exactly the right time with the most engaging content? Well, guess what? This slide is all about tools. Okay, so just like many of us use QuickBooks in our businesses, these are some social media tools that can help you make your life a little bit easier. So for content creation, we recommend these 3 apps to help you build beautiful content. From a scheduling standpoint, the most basic tools available, Facebook does have publishing tools, but if it's something that you're wanting to use across multiple platforms, we recommend Hootsuite, Social Pilot. Sorry, I have lost track of all of my slides. And Buffer. And the last 2 are more sophisticated, but they not only help with scheduling, but they help with content curation. So go in and check them out. They're all really strong apps. They've been around for a while. They've kind of proven the test of time, and you can figure out which ones are right for your business. Okay. So you are going to need to do a little bit of research. For people that are in our class today, if you're using any of these apps and you're having a lot of success, I'm seeing a lot of camaraderie through our chat, which we absolutely love. So please feel free and go ahead and put down, if you're using any of these apps, which ones you like the best, just so you can give each other a little personal endorsement if you've tried them. But they're all absolutely, see, we've got a lot of Canva, all really great. They have a different purpose. So figure out what's right for you, but use them because it will make your life a lot easier. And if you're not sure, just try one. Try a content creation app or try a scheduling app and spend a little bit of time with it, develop a relationship with it. And if you don't like it, then move on to another one.
Very good. Excellent advice, because again, we're trying to give you realistic things that you can do today that give you better ROI from your social media efforts.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about trends. So Christina, gosh, she's always up on all the great trends. So we literally built this slide just a couple days ago. So these are the most current trends for 2021.
So I'm going to translate these trends and let you know why you would want them for your Facebook business, how they impact you. So personalized marketing with AI. Facebook is getting really, really smart about creating and delivering ads, especially that are and hyper targeted, not to particular mass demographics, but really into specific targets for your business. And so Facebook has been investing really heavily into their AI to improve the performance of ads across all their platforms. So when you build an ad, for example, you can give campaign budget optimization. So you can sort of give them a range of money and how to spend it. You can give automatic placements. So what I mean by that is you used to have to choose, well, do I want my ad to show on phones or on desktops or both? Do I want it to show in the corner or on the side of the feed or in the main feed? Do I want it to show to the Facebook audience network? What even is that? I don't know. And it was a really frustrating situation. Well, now let me tell you, unless you have all of the data and information for your business, just go ahead and check mark the box that says automatic placements, because then Facebook uses all of its algorithms to figure out the best places to show their audience where your particular audience and demographic are. Even people I work with who they are marketers and it is their job to run Facebook ads for big, huge brands, they're checking automatic placements. So you should too. Also, Facebook is using something called dynamic ads, where instead of, I talked about A/B testing one piece of copy, one picture, now you can give them an option. Let's use one picture and 5 different pieces of copy, or 5 pictures and 5 different pieces of copy. And then Facebook matrix it out using the different pieces of copy and context, copy and assets based on who the end result is. Let them choose it. So AI is a huge thing today. And basically, we're seeing that the numbers are increasing. So this type of ad has a 34% improvement in ROAS, a 10% improvement in brand lift, and a 6% lower cost. So use all the tools in your toolbox if you're using ads. Also, Facebook is getting into AR, augmented reality ads. So this is really cool. They rolled this out last year. They allow the user to do things like try on makeup or play a game. And in the United States, 63% of people have already tried these AR experiences. So there's a huge opportunity, especially since a lot of brands no longer have the same in-person experiences with their consumers. So consider what AR might look like. So here's an example. This makeup line, this We Makeup, they launched an AR ad on Facebook and it let people test drive their new shade of lipstick. So you'd put your picture there and then you could see on the bottom, put all these different color lipsticks on you. Well, surprise, surprise, they saw a 27.6% increase in purchase, because they could know these people maybe weren't going to the MAC counter or going to Macy's and trying on lipsticks. Very smart to use AR. And the third is user generated content. This is an always trend, but boy, are we seeing a lot more user-generated content to come out of the pandemic. More people than ever are using Canva. More people than ever are using Photoshop. More people than ever are using stories. They want to create content. And guess what? They want to post it on social media, and they want you as the brand or the business to reshare it and repost it. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they're contributing. It makes them feel like they're part of a community. And really importantly, if you're trying to think of what to include in a Facebook ad, user-generated content always does magnificently in Facebook ads. People love it. Also, I'll say that we've seen an increase from January to August of 2020 from 223 billion views to 495 billion views of user-generated content. Your consumers want to see what other people are saying about your product, not just what you're saying.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you think about anymore, so many of us are doing so much of our shopping online and our research online. And just like consumer reviews have an influence on whether you make a purchase or not, to have user generated content to endorse your business is really the same thing in a different medium. So that makes sense. Okay, I've got a few questions I did put into the chat. Right now, we've got a couple minutes. So this is our last opportunity for questions. So if you've got them, we'll do our best to read through them. So here's a couple of them that we have not answered already. How does Facebook deal with pseudo or fake profiles?
Facebook is doing better about it, but I have still encountered, like I'm working in a brand right now that we are still getting comments from this profile that's clearly fake. The good news is if you have a business page, you can block individual users. So if there is like a fake profile or something going on that's messing with your business, there's ways to account for that, if that's why you're asking.
Yes. And then there's a question here. I answered it, but I realized I missed a keyword. So the answer is going to be different. If users post users, not you, but users post pictures with your product and it's not a great pic, should you still use it? I thought the original question was, if you have a picture of your product and it's not great, should you still use it? And my answer was, get a great picture. But if it's a user, I would say absolutely still use it, because again, it's more authentic coming from a customer than it is from you. Would you add anything to that, Christina?
Absolutely. And if you want to use it for like ads or for something like that, you might be able to dress it up or make it a better picture using some tools in Canva, or you might be able to use it in stories for a really authentic user experience. But it's going to look real because it's a real person who took it.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. I think it's all right. If anything, it'll generate some curiosity, like, hey, I want to really check that out or something. Here's another one, and I think it's a great question, because I think all of us have experienced this. Even if you post an article, sometimes you get dissenting feedback, and how do you handle it? So Carly is asking, what do you do if you post a product and then people comment that they like a different version of the product and tag a friend to dissuade them from purchasing the newer version of the product? How do you handle that?
Well, firstly, how dare they?
Yeah.
And secondly, the trouble and the awesome thing about social media is that it's social and it's there for the world to see. So if you were at a cocktail party and this same conversation would happen, how would you handle it? Hopefully with grace and poise. And you would maybe say, hey, I'd love it for you to check out our product. Let me sweeten the pot. Let me send you a free sample, or let me send you a $10 off coupon, or let's chat about why you like that. Or so you don't want to engage trolls, but you don't want to ignore comments and conversations that are happening on your page, because at the end of the day, that's your page for you to do with what you will.
That's great. Okay, so I just put 2 questions into the chat for all of you to answer. Tell us what you like best about this class so that we can continue to have more of that content. As of right now, we're scheduled to share an updated version of the Facebook for Business class again in early March. And my other question to everybody was, or actually it was a suggestion. So if you like these tips and these insights, Christina and I continue to do these on our social media platforms. So please go ahead and follow us both, Solve KC Innovations Digital, on our Facebook business page. You can also follow us personally on our LinkedIn page and our businesses on LinkedIn as well. Those are the three places where we post this kind of content most frequently. Okay, so this slide is in your handouts. It is kind of a pulling it all together kind of slide. So social media do's and don'ts. We want to make sure you have a plan. So create a strategy that links up with your business goals. As we've told you many times, every single post is like an interaction that you're having with your followers or your customers. So think about how it's going to impact your brand. Find a balance between your content so that it's fun and people enjoy seeing your posts. Tell your story. That's the most authentic that you can be. I've got a dear friend who signed up for our class today who's going out on her own after being in corporate for 20 plus years. And she's starting to document her story of starting her own business. All the things that she's learning as she's setting up this and setting up that. And what a great way to get followership and support and frankly, even advice. Remain professional. This is your business. Track your results. Christina talked about the key performance indicators that are important to you. Think about what's important based on your business and your strategy. Is it the number of total followers you have on your page? Is it engagement metrics for each individual post? Is it clicks to your website? It could be something else, but whatever it is, keep track of it. And this last bullet point, I should just make as big as the slide would let me make. It is a big, big recommendation that I share all the time, which is reciprocity. We have taught you so many great tips and insights on how to help your algorithms. And we've tried to create a little bit of a community here through our chat today, which we love how interactive you guys have been. You know one another's businesses now. You know other small businesses in your area. Make sure you engage with them on their pages, like their posts, comment on their posts. If you do that for them and they do that for you, both of you are going to win. You will both have improved visibility. Go ahead, Christina. This is just a little flow chart. It's from Hootsuite. We love Hootsuite. We're not going to go through it, but it's a great little, it's in your handout, something for you to think about if you're not sure if it's the right kind of content or not to have in your posts. And then tips on building your plan. Again, have a plan. Find out that time to engage daily, whether it's your stories, if it's Twitter, sharing your tweets, anything that you can't do in a schedule, just find a little bit of time to engage. We've talked about planning. Our recommendation is you plan your content calendar at least 30 days at a time, but we've given you the tools in your handouts to do it for all of the first quarter. Set aside time at the end of each month if you're doing this for your own business, or frankly, you can hire somebody to help you. It could be Christina. It could be one of your kids. It could be a college intern, whatever it is. If you know it's super important for your business and you just don't have time, it's a great alternative for you to just start getting content out there and gaining your followership. Along the way, gather your photos and videos. Just throw them all in a file. You'll use them at some point. Use one of the apps that we recommended and that you all shared with one another to help create and schedule your posts. It will make your life easier and your posts will be prettier and you'll be really, really proud of them. Always consider there's always something to post. So we gave you some great examples of businesses, and some of you asked about nonprofit organizations that do a great job. We shared a couple of them with you. Follow those businesses that you know do a great job and make note of the range of content that they post. You can do the same thing as it's relevant to your business. You can do product sneak peeks. You can do sales and promotions and contests. You can spotlight employees. What a great way to brag about your company. Brag about the great people that work in your company. Christina's talked a lot about user-generated content today. When customers appreciate your business, whether it's something they put on your website, a comment, or any kind of platform where they're giving you customer feedback. It could be on Facebook. It could even be a thank you card. Go ahead and take a picture of it and post that on your page. And then there's always holidays and national this day and national that day. Figure out what's right for your business and use that as content. All right, now it's your turn. The next few slides are all about you. They're in your handouts. They're for you to mark up and use. We wanted to give you a little sneak peek of some of the content that we will talk about. So as we said at the beginning, most businesses are on Facebook. Most businesses are also on at least one other social media platform. So here's an insight into some of the content on the links that Brandy shared. There's a lot more information on what we're talking about in those classes. They're all going to be like this, high energy, lots of interaction. We're going to talk about trends. We're going to talk about hashtags. We're going to talk about how to make sure what you're doing on these platforms gets you the kind of results that you're looking for. These are all the ways you can connect with us. We encourage you to do it. Any of you who've joined us before know that as soon as we're connected, Christina and I do our best to do our part with that reciprocity, to go ahead and like and comment on your posts. We want you to be able to do that for one another as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you again to the Women's Business Center and to Brandy. And Christina, do you have any final words?
No, get out there and have some fun on Facebook. We'll look forward to seeing what you're doing on Facebook, and we appreciate you spending some time with us today for sure. And thank you to the Women's Business Center.
Great, thank you so much. This was extremely helpful content once again. I know a lot of people have had great feedback in the chat on this session today as well. And thank you all for joining us and for participating in the chat and discussion on this session. It really does make the interaction really robust, and it helps for all of us to learn from each other, as Aviva and Christina have mentioned. I've posted a couple of times in the chat where to go to register for the upcoming sessions, and Aviva and Christina have provided you with the link here as well. I've also shared a couple times the YouTube channel link for the Women's Business Center. We will do our best to get this posted as quickly as possible so that you can revisit this session. Certainly feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel when you're there. That helps us to generate our own channel presence, so which is another great way for us to build our brand. So thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you all back on January 20th and the 27th for our upcoming sessions. Thank you so much. Have a great day.